Before you get to your group work today, I want to show you what you need to be doing. It's not super self-explanatory, so I want to make sure you really understand this before I send you on your way. So basically what we're going to do is you should have this trial organizer already, and if you don't have it yet, then stop and ask the sub for it. What I've done for you is for Mayella Ewell, Bob Ewell, and Hectate's testimony, I did the fill in the blank stuff for you. What you guys are going to do is figure out, what do these facts imply? And that's not a super easy skill, so let me show you a couple examples before you get started. So the testimony is always led by the lawyers. The lawyers ask a question, the witness answers it, and then they move on. But what I want you to start thinking about is, why would the lawyers ask these specific questions? What are they trying to suggest with that answer? So let's take Mayella Ewell, for example. Atticus gets up there and he starts to interrogate her. And he says, "Okay, Mayella, how old are you?" She says, "Well, I'm 19 years old." So what I want you to think about is, why would Atticus ask that? What is the significance of her being 19? And I think what that fact implies is that she's an adult. She's not a child. She knows exactly what she's doing. This isn't some little girl that's been traumatized. This is a woman who is on the stand telling her story. All right. So then he says, "Well, how did Tom end up in your house?" And she says, "Well, I asked Tom to come in and help me chop up a dresser." Okay, so what does that imply? Well, first of all, it implies that he was invited in, and they must have been friendly. You don't ask random strangers into your house. You don't invite people that you're intimidated by or frightened by to help you do some sort of chore. So they must have had some sort of friendship. And then you have, Tom ran up and grabbed her around the neck and held down her arms and then proceeded to beat and rape her. She tried to fight him off, but to no avail. Okay, well, if someone is able to grab you around the neck and to pin you down and to hold you down while you're actively trying to get away, Tom must have been very strong, and he must have had use of both his arms. Okay, you can't wrap your hands around someone's neck unless you can use both hands. Okay, so then you have, she screamed for help, and then her dad came and asked who done it. Now, if the dad has to ask who did this to you, he obviously didn't see it happen. If he had seen it happen, he wouldn't have had to say who did it. So Bob did not see the crime happen. Okay, and then Atticus asks her about her friends. How many friends do you have? Who are your friends? What do you and your friends do? And she says, "Well, I don't have any friends." What's the purpose in pointing that out? Why does it matter if Mayella has friends or not in the grand scheme of this trial? Well, I think what he was trying to do is prove that she's lonely. Okay, we move on. She is offended by Atticus calling her ma'am. What does that show us? What is important? Why is that important? Well, no one has ever been kind to her before. Then she says, "Well, I like my dad except for when he drinks." What's implied there? What's the subtle suggestion there? Well, he must be a mean drunk. And then finally we have, she has asked Tom for help before. So once again, they are familiar with each other. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and fill those in on your sheets. Now you're going to repeat this process for Hectate's testimony and Bobby Ewell's testimony. So I'm not going to type these out for you, but I'll quickly go through. Hectate says by the time he arrived, Mayella is still on the floor and she was badly beaten. Well, what does that show us? Number one, Bobby Ewell didn't care enough to even help her up. And number 2, she must have been beaten pretty badly that she couldn't help herself up. Number 2, no doctor was called. So there couldn't have been any true physical evidence. She was never examined by a doctor. What does that imply? Maybe they're trying to hide some evidence. Number 3, she was beaten on the right side of her face. Okay, fine. It must have been a left-handed assailant. Number 4, she had finger marks around her entire neck and both arms had bruises. Once again, the assailant must have had use of both hands in order to get his hands around her neck. Now Bob Ewell comes in. He says, I saw Tom raping Mayella. What does that imply? It implies he was there when it happened. Now we know that wasn't true because of Mayella's testimony, but that's what he claims when he's on the stand. Okay, he says, when he went inside, Tom ran away. Well, if you have someone running away from the scene of a crime, it's implied that they're guilty. That's what he's trying to prove, that Tom did it. If he didn't do it, why did he run? He called the sheriff, but did not call the doctor. He's obviously more concerned with justice than he is with getting help for his daughter. He says he agrees with the testimony of Heck Tate. That basically proves if Heck Tate is telling the truth, which Bob Ewell says he was, then Mayella must have been lying. So Atticus kind of tries to catch him in a lie here. And then finally, he is left-handed. Why does Atticus need to prove he's left-handed? Well, Atticus is implying that he's the one who attacked Mayella, not Tom Robinson. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to look at chapter 19, and you're going to go ahead and fill in the blanks for Tom's testimony, and then you're going to do the same exact thing. What was Atticus implying by getting that information out of Tom? What was he suggesting without flat out openly suggesting it? He can't say, Tom, did Mayella come on to you? Because that would really outrage the court. So he has to be kind of subtle in how he gets the testimony out of Tom. So what I'm asking you is, what does Tom say? And why is that significant? Or what is Atticus suggesting by sharing that information with the jury? Okay, so if you guys have any questions, you can email me or you can send me a tweet. I'll have access to my computer for the entire day today, and I can certainly help you, but definitely ask your classmates and, I'm sure Mrs. Sinchera could probably help you as well. Just do whatever you got to do to get this finished. But keep in mind, you have to do the summary and the quote chart as well. So I wouldn't take the entire class period to do this because you don't want to end up with any extra homework. So I'd work through it pretty quickly, and then you guys can leave these behind for me to check in when I get back. All right, best of luck, and let me know if you need any help.